A frantic 911 call shattered the quiet night in Omaha, Nebraska. The voice on the other end was panicked, words barely forming between gasps of terror. The dispatcher struggled to piece together the horror unfolding on the other side of the line. When officers arrived at the Dalton family home, nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to witness. A family torn apart. A crime so brutal it left even seasoned investigators shaken. But as detectives dug deeper, they realized this wasn't a random act of violence. This was personal. And the killer? He was someone they never expected, or maybe they should have. Tonight, we uncover the chilling truth behind the Dalton family massacre. What happens when love turns deadly? And how could something so horrific happen within the walls of a family home? Nestled in a quiet neighborhood of Omaha, Nebraska, the Dalton family was a pillar of their community. John Dalton Sr., 70, and his wife, Jean, 65, were known for their warmth and generosity. John Sr., a retired railroad worker, spent his days tending to his garden, often sharing his harvest with neighbors. Jean, a former schoolteacher, volunteered at the local library, fostering a love for reading in children. Their home at 3912 North 37th Street was a gathering place for family celebrations, especially during the holidays. The Daltons had 3 children, but it was their son, John Dalton Jr., who drew the most attention. The Daltons' granddaughter, Leanna Dalton Phillip, 18, was a beacon of hope and joy. A high school senior with a 4.0 GPA, she co-captained the school's drill team and aspired to attend college, dreaming of a future filled with promise. Her father, Claude Phillip, recalled her as a beautiful soul with an infectious smile. To outsiders, the Daltons appeared to have rebuilt their lives, embracing family gatherings and cherishing moments together. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. John Jr.'s return introduced complexities. His erratic behavior and unresolved issues from the past created an undercurrent of unease. Everything seemed perfect, until one fateful night changed everything. It all started with a 911 call. The voice on the other end was panicked, words barely forming between gasps of terror. The dispatcher struggled to piece together the horror unfolding on the other side of the line. When officers arrived at the Dalton family home, they noted the front door ajar, swaying slightly in the evening breeze. The porch light flickered, casting unsettling shadows across the neatly kept lawn. Stepping cautiously over the threshold, the officers' flashlights cut through the dim interior. Family photos lined the walls, depicting joyful moments now starkly contrasted by the present dread. In the living room, a coffee cup lay shattered on the floor, its contents seeping into the carpet. A recliner was overturned, and the television buzzed with static, suggesting a sudden and violent interruption of a typical evening. Proceeding down the hallway, officers observed a trail of crimson droplets leading toward the back of the house. The metallic scent of blood grew stronger, mingling with the faint aroma of Jean Dalton's homemade potpourri. In the master bedroom, the scene was one of profound tragedy. John Dalton Sr. lay sprawled across the bed, a gunshot wound to his chest, his eyes fixed in a lifeless stare toward the ceiling fan that continued its slow rotation. Beside him, Jean Dalton was slumped against the headboard, a bullet wound to her temple, her hand outstretched as if reaching for her husband in her final moments. The floral-patterned bedspread was soaked with blood, and the bedside lamp flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the room. A family photo on the nightstand remained undisturbed, capturing a moment of happiness now tainted by the surrounding horror. In the adjacent bedroom, officers discovered the body of 18-year-old Leanna Dalton Phillip. She was seated at her desk, slumped over her open laptop, a single gunshot wound to the back of her head. The screen displayed an unfinished college application essay, her aspirations and future abruptly and violently erased. There were no immediate signs of a struggle in either room, no overturned furniture or defensive wounds. It appeared the victims were taken by surprise, their lives ended in an instant by someone they likely trusted. As the gravity of the scene settled in, the lead detective surveyed the home, noting the unsettling normalcy juxtaposed with the violent acts committed. The scent of freshly baked cookies still lingered in the kitchen, a stark contrast to the macabre tableau. Outside, the neighborhood remained eerily quiet, residents unaware of the tragedy that had just unfolded in their midst. The only sounds were the distant wail of additional sirens and the hushed whispers of officers processing the unimaginable scene. In the heart of Omaha, Nebraska, the Dalton family was a cornerstone of their community. John Dalton Sr., 70, and his wife, Jean Dalton, 65, were the epitome of dedication and resilience. John Sr., a retired railroad worker, had spent decades ensuring the smooth operation of the nation's railways. His commitment to his work was paralleled only by his devotion to his family. Jean, a former schoolteacher, had touched the lives of countless students, instilling in them a love for learning and a sense of curiosity about the world. Their home was a sanctuary, not just for their immediate family but for the entire neighborhood. Known for their open-door policy, the Daltons hosted numerous gatherings, where laughter and stories flowed freely. Their generosity knew no bounds, whether it was offering a helping hand or a listening ear. John and Jean were always there. Central to their lives was their granddaughter, Liana Dalton Phillip. At 18, Liana was on the cusp of adulthood, brimming with potential and ambition. A high school senior, she maintained a stellar 4.0 GPA, a testament to her intelligence and work ethic. As the co-captain of her school's drill team, Liana showcased not only her talent but also her leadership skills. Her aspirations were sky-high. She dreamed of attending college, aiming to carve out a future that would make her family proud. Her father, Claude Phillip, often spoke of her as a beautiful soul with an infectious smile that could light up any room. December 26, 2017, began like any other day in the Dalton household. The warmth of the holiday season still lingered in the air, with remnants of Christmas decorations adorning the living room. John and Jean had invited family over to share in the festive spirit, planning to serve Jean's famous homemade pie, a family favorite. Liana, ever the diligent student, spent her morning working on college applications. Her excitement was palpable as she meticulously crafted essays, each word bringing her one step closer to her dreams. In between, she exchanged messages with friends, sharing hopes and plans for the future. As the afternoon sun dipped beyond the horizon, the family began to gather. Laughter echoed through the halls, stories of past holidays were recounted, and the aroma of Jean's pie filled the home. It was a scene of pure contentment, a snapshot of familial bliss. On that fateful evening, as the family prepared to enjoy dessert, an unexpected knock echoed through the house. John Jr. arrived unannounced, his presence causing a ripple of unease. What was meant to be a continuation of holiday festivities took a tragic turn. Without warning, John Jr. produced a firearm, shooting through the door and striking his mother, Jean. Panic ensued as he entered the home, methodically targeting his family members. John Sr. was shot multiple times, and Liana, in a desperate attempt to find safety, hid in a closet. Tragically, she was discovered and fatally shot. In mere moments, the Dalton household transformed from a haven of joy to a scene of unimaginable horror. The lives of John Sr., Jean, and Liana were brutally cut short, leaving a void that would forever haunt those who knew and loved them. In the immediate aftermath of the Dalton family tragedy, investigators faced a myriad of questions. The initial assessment of the crime scene offered no signs of forced entry. The front door was ajar, but there were no broken windows or picked locks. This absence suggested that the victims likely knew their assailant, allowing them entry without suspicion. Given the family's history, detectives considered several avenues. One prominent theory centered around familial discord, particularly involving John Dalton Jr. His prior conviction for the 1998 murder of his wife, Shannon, and subsequent release in 2010, had introduced strains within the family dynamics. Neighbors and acquaintances recounted instances of erratic behavior exhibited by John Jr., leading to a growing concern among family members. In fact, Just days before the murders, relatives had expressed fears regarding his unpredictable actions. This backdrop of tension made him a person of significant interest. Financial motives were also explored. The Daltons were known for their generosity, but investigators needed to ascertain if any recent financial disputes or debts could have provided a motive for such a heinous act. However, preliminary findings did not indicate any pressing financial troubles or conflicts. As forensic teams meticulously combed through the residence, several critical pieces of evidence began to emerge. In the master bedroom, near the bodies of John Sr. and Jean, investigators discovered shell casings from a 9mm firearm. The positioning of the casings and the victims suggested a close-range attack, likely catching them off guard. In Liana's room, the scene was equally harrowing. She was found seated at her desk, slumped over her laptop. The computer screen displayed an unfinished college application essay, a poignant reminder of her aspirations abruptly halted. Nearby, a bullet had lodged into the wall, indicating the trajectory of the fatal shot. The absence of defensive wounds on Liana further suggested she had little to no time to react, underscoring the calculated nature of the attack. Fingerprints lifted from various surfaces within the home were analyzed. While many belonged to the victims and regular visitors, there were unidentified prints that warranted further investigation. Additionally, a partial footprint, possibly from a boot, was found near the back entrance, suggesting a potential exit route taken by the perpetrator. The autopsies provided a clearer picture of the tragic events. John Sr. sustained multiple gunshot wounds to the chest, with the fatal shot piercing his heart. Jean suffered a single gunshot wound to the head, indicative of a close-range execution-style killing. Liana's cause of death was a gunshot wound to the back of the head, aligning with the evidence found at the scene. Toxicology reports indicated no foreign substances in the victim's systems, suggesting they were fully aware during the attack. The time of death was estimated between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m., corroborating the timeline established by the 911 call and witness statements. The precision and decisiveness of the murders pointed towards premeditation. The assailant appeared to have a clear plan, targeting each victim methodically, ensuring minimal chance for alarm or escape. This level of planning indicated a deep-seated motive, possibly rooted in personal vendettas or unresolved grievances. As the investigation deepened, the focus narrowed. The combination of forensic evidence, family history, and behavioral patterns began to paint a clearer picture of the perpetrator. The challenge remained, gathering sufficient evidence to bring the assailant to justice and provide closure to a community left in shock and mourning. In the immediate aftermath of the Dalton family murders, investigators were inundated with leads and potential suspects. The brutal nature of the crime suggested a deeply personal motive, yet the absence of forced entry indicated the victims likely knew their assailant. This paradox led detectives down multiple investigative paths. Initially, the possibility of a home invasion was considered. However, the lack of ransacking or theft, combined with the family's standing in the community, made this theory less plausible. Attention then shifted to individuals within the family's inner circle. Friends and extended family members were interviewed extensively. Some acquaintances exhibited unusual behavior, such as inconsistent alibis or evasive answers, raising suspicions. Yet, upon deeper investigation, many of these leads unraveled. For instance, a close family friend initially couldn't account for his whereabouts during the time of the murders. Further probing revealed he had been involved in an extramarital affair, explaining his secrecy but absolving him of involvement in the crime. Another potential lead emerged when a neighbor reported seeing an unfamiliar vehicle parked near the Dalton residence on the night of the murders. The vehicle was described as a dark-colored sedan with tinted windows. This information led investigators to explore the possibility of an external perpetrator. However, surveillance footage from nearby homes and businesses failed to corroborate the presence of such a vehicle, leading this lead to a dead end. As the investigation progressed, attention increasingly focused on John Dalton Jr., the son of John Sr. and Jean Dalton. Family members and friends recounted instances of erratic behavior exhibited by John Jr. in the days leading up to the murders. Relatives expressed concerns about his unpredictable actions, noting that he had become increasingly withdrawn and exhibited signs of paranoia. His absence from the crime scene and lack of communication following the incident further heightened suspicions. In the wake of the Dalton family tragedy, investigators delved deep into the family's history, seeking to uncover any hidden facets that might shed light on the motive behind the heinous act. John Dalton Jr., the son of John Sr. and Jean Dalton, had a past marred by violence. In 1998, he was convicted of manslaughter for the fatal shooting of his wife, Shannon Dalton, while their 3 young daughters were present in the home. After serving 11 years in prison, he was paroled in 2010. Despite his mother's unwavering support during his incarceration and efforts to reintegrate him into family events, Dalton Jr.'s behavior remained erratic. Family members recounted instances of unsettling conduct, which led to growing concerns about his mental state. However, no concrete evidence of affairs, financial disputes, or hidden abuse within the family was uncovered during the investigation. Determining a clear motive for the murders proved challenging. There were no significant financial gains to be had. The Daltons were a modest family without substantial wealth or life insurance policies that would benefit potential heirs. Revenge seemed a plausible angle, especially considering Dalton Jr.'s turbulent history and possible resentment towards his parents or other family members. However, without explicit evidence or a confession detailing his reasoning, the exact motive remained elusive. The breakthrough in the case came from a combination of forensic evidence and eyewitness testimony. A 6-year-old niece, who had hidden under a couch during the attack, identified her uncle J.J., John Dalton Jr., as the shooter. This first-hand account was pivotal in directing the investigation towards Dalton Jr. Additionally, forensic analysis linked the 9mm handgun found in his possession at the time of his arrest to the shell casings recovered at the crime scene, conclusively tying him to the murders. These pieces of evidence, combined with his prior criminal history, led to his arrest and subsequent guilty plea to 3 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. The Dalton family massacre stands as a chilling reminder of the potential for unresolved personal demons to manifest in unimaginable ways. While justice was served, the true motive behind the senseless act may forever remain a mystery, leaving a void in the hearts of those left behind. Following the tragic events that unfolded in the Dalton household, a nationwide manhunt was initiated for John Dalton Jr., the prime suspect in the brutal slayings of his parents and niece. The urgency of the situation was palpable, with law enforcement agencies across state lines collaborating to apprehend him. On December 27, 2017, a significant breakthrough occurred. Dalton Jr. was spotted driving a black GMC vehicle on Interstate 40 near Jackson, Tennessee. Local authorities, acting on the nationwide alert, initiated a traffic stop. The encounter escalated into a tense, hour-long pursuit, with Dalton Jr. attempting to evade capture. Eventually, the chase culminated without incident, and he was taken into custody. Inside his vehicle, officers discovered a 9mm handgun, later identified as the murder weapon used in the Omaha homicides. His demeanor during the arrest was described as subdued, offering no resistance as he was handcuffed and read his rights. The legal proceedings that followed were closely watched, drawing significant media attention due to the heinous nature of the crimes and Dalton Jr.'s prior criminal history. In the early stages, the prosecution grappled with the decision to pursue the death penalty, given the premeditated and familial aspects of the murders. However, in a strategic move, Dalton Jr. accepted a plea agreement on December 10, 2018. In exchange for the state's commitment not to seek capital punishment, he pled guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of using a firearm to commit a felony, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, second offense. This decision spared the community a prolonged trial and provided a measure of closure to the grieving family members. During the sentencing phase, the courtroom atmosphere was somber. Family members of the victims delivered heartfelt impact statements, painting vivid pictures of the profound loss they had endured. The defense, while acknowledging the gravity of the crimes, highlighted Dalton Jr.'s troubled past and potential mental health issues, aiming to provide context, if not justification, for his actions. The prosecution, on the other hand, emphasized the calculated nature of the murders and the need for justice to be served. Media outlets provided extensive coverage, with public opinion largely condemning Dalton Jr.'s actions. The community's shock was palpable, as many struggled to reconcile the image of a once familiar neighbor with that of a cold-blooded murderer. In accordance with the plea agreement, the presiding judge sentenced John Dalton Jr. to 3 consecutive life terms for the murders, supplemented by additional sentences totaling up to 230 years for the associated firearms charges. This effectively ensured that Dalton Jr. would spend the remainder of his life incarcerated, without the possibility of parole. While the plea deal eliminated the prospect of the death penalty, it also spared the victims' families the emotional turmoil of a lengthy trial and potential appeals. In the aftermath, discussions arose regarding the adequacy of the sentencing and the broader implications of the plea deal. Some community members felt that justice had been appropriately served, appreciating the swift resolution. Others grappled with the complexities of the case, particularly given Dalton Jr.'s prior conviction and the devastating impact on the surviving family members. The Dalton family tragedy serves as a poignant reminder of the profound and lasting effects of familial violence. While the legal proceedings have concluded, the emotional scars borne by the community and the surviving relatives endure, underscoring the necessity for continued support and understanding. The tragic events that unfolded within the Dalton family reverberated deeply throughout the Omaha community. Neighbors, friends, and extended family members were engulfed in a wave of shock and sorrow, struggling to comprehend the senseless loss of John Sr., Jean, and young Liana. Vigils were organized in their memory, with hundreds gathering to light candles, share stories, and offer support to the surviving family members. The local church held special services, providing a space for collective mourning and reflection. Schools attended by Liana and her cousins implemented counseling sessions, helping students navigate the complex emotions arising from the tragedy. The media coverage, while extensive, was handled with a degree of sensitivity, focusing on the lives of the victims and the community's resilience rather than sensationalizing the crime. Local journalists highlighted stories of unity, showcasing how neighbors leaned on each other, reinforcing the fabric of a community determined to heal together. In the aftermath, many grappled with the haunting question, were there signs that could have foretold the impending disaster? John Dalton Jr.'s prior conviction for the manslaughter of his wife in 1998 was a glaring red flag. Despite serving 11 years and being paroled in 2010, his reintegration into the family was fraught with tension. Family members recounted instances of erratic behavior, yet these were often dismissed or downplayed, overshadowed by Jean Dalton's unwavering belief in her son's redemption. This case underscores the critical importance of addressing and acknowledging behavioral warning signs, especially when a history of violence is present. Mental health interventions, open dialogues about past traumas, and the establishment of boundaries are essential measures that, if implemented, might prevent future tragedies. Communities and families are reminded of the delicate balance between offering support and ensuring personal safety. While the legal proceedings concluded with John Dalton Jr. receiving 3 consecutive life sentences, several lingering questions continue to haunt those left behind. Foremost is the elusive motive: what drove Dalton Jr. to commit such an atrocity against his own flesh and blood? The absence of a clear explanation leaves a void, making closure a challenging endeavor for the grieving family and community. Additionally, some ponder whether more proactive measures could have been taken post-1998 to monitor Dalton Jr.'s mental health and reintegration into society. Was there a systemic failure in providing the necessary support and oversight for someone with his history? These reflections serve as a somber reminder of the complexities inherent in balancing rehabilitation with public safety. The Dalton family tragedy stands as a poignant testament to the profound impact of unresolved personal demons and the ripple effects of violence within a family. As the community continues to heal, there lies a collective hope that lessons learned from this sorrowful chapter will foster a future where awareness, intervention, and compassion work hand in hand to prevent such devastating events. The Dalton family massacre remains one of the most heartbreaking cases of familial violence in recent history. A family once filled with love and resilience was torn apart in an act of unspeakable brutality. And while justice has been served, the lingering questions surrounding this case leave a haunting void. Was there an underlying motive that was never uncovered? Could this tragedy have been prevented? And most importantly, do you believe justice was truly served in this case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think John Dalton Jr.'s sentence was enough? Or do you believe there are still unanswered questions that need to be addressed? Cases like this remind us of the importance of awareness, vigilance, and understanding the warning signs of potential violence. If you or someone you know is in a situation that feels unsafe, remember, help is out there. No one should have to live in fear. For more in-depth true crime investigations and stories like this one, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We explore the most chilling cases, the hidden motives, and the pursuit of justice. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes, the most dangerous threats come from the places we least expect.